Story 1. I 29 female. I'm a working woman. And so is my husband 32 male. We both have stable jobs and currently live together. Our finances are good, but we worked hard to get where we are. Meanwhile, my sister is a housewife. 24 female and her husband. 24 male, they both got married a few months ago. Works various odd jobs, but not a career. Latter sort of job. So he goes in and out of work. So their finances aren't stable. Now I have no problem with my sister being a housewife. But her husband isn't even providing much. And my sister is always so condescending to me, always says that I should be a housewife like her, or that I have no time for her. Because I'm too busy at work, whenever we have a chance to talk. But that's not the real reason why I'm making this post. Rather, my sister couldn't get a wedding ring before her marriage, because she and her husband couldn't afford it. They wanted to get married, but they wanted a wedding ring to celebrate the occasion, even if they wouldn't own it in the end. So my sister came to me when they planned the wedding, asking me if she could borrow mine and my husband's wedding ring. I wasn't skeptical. She promised to return, and as she's my sister, I didn't have much reason to suspect her to go against a word. My husband agreed to do it, and we brought them my engagement ring, not the wedding ring, because I didn't want to part with it, to be honest. Gosh, I should have been suspicious. After the wedding, she asked me if she could keep the ring for a while, since she's going to have a few wedding parties, and she didn't want to be seen without a ring. I didn't mind that. It seemed fair enough to me at the time. But after a week, I asked again for her to return my ring. She said she was going on a honeymoon somewhere in the countryside, so she needed them so she can still look officially married. This is where I started to get impatient and told my sister that she should stop moving the deadline. My sister then said she doesn't live as comfortably as me and my husband, and that unlike us, they aren't blessed with cash. I knew she was just making excuses, but she was still my sister, so I accepted that excuse and allowed her to keep the ring until their honeymoon. Big mistake. After the supposed honeymoon, around another week or so, I asked my sister for the wedding ring again when she returned, and we met each other in my home. This time I was prepared to say no to her. But to my shock, she said she sold the ring. She apparently appraised the ring, just to see their value, and the appraiser gave a much lower value than what my husband bothering for $3,000. I lost it and snapped at her. How the frig did she even think this was a remotely okay thing to do? She said she wanted to pay off her student loans, and that I should be more understanding of her situation, since I can afford another any time I want. What ensued was a massive fight, with me beating her ass and a lot of screaming. I snapped and said she should never come to my house again until she returned me the ring. She said she can never afford to buy it back, and I should have sympathy since she just wants to live debt free like I do. I yelled at her and kicked her out of the house soon, after my husband wasn't home at the time. But when he returned, I told him what happened. He wasn't the time to yell, but he was very visibly mad. I'm still waiting for an update from them. There will be health to pay if she won't find me back. My ring. Update. Thanks for the support, guys. I got so fed up that I threatened to sue her if she didn't get my ring returned. Somehow it got so bad between us, my parents finally intervened. Turns out the ring wasn't sold yet. They have found a buyer and prepared everything, but hadn't gone through it yet, because she wanted to see my reaction, since I lost it and threatened legal action. Instead of crying and begging, she realized she wouldn't get away with it. My parents, my husband, and I pressured her to return the rings. After a long and lengthy discussion, as I would put it, and her own husband finally convinced to just return the ring to us, your sister should go get a job op. You gave her your engagement ring because you trusted her, and she messed it up. If she wants to live debt-free like you do, then she should also want to work. Her selling your ring might easily debt a little, but what about the rest? She has a sister like you, and I'm certain you would be able to pull her through if she just came to you and said she would like to work. But instead of doing that, she wants to mooch off you. I'm glad you got your ring back. I hope your sister apologizes so you two can start talking again. But until then, not talking to her and keeping her at arm's length will do. Story 2. Necessary backstory. I'm a 21-year older woman in the Midwest. I'm the youngest of 5 children, 2 older sisters and 2 older brothers. My mom has always expected the girls to help clean, babysit, and cook while not expecting the boys to do anything. An example of this is when I was around 11. She would force me to stay at home from school a lot to babysit my niece and take care of her when she was sick, while my next eldest brother, 14 at the time, got to attend school and never helped babysit. I spent an entire summer once when I was around 11 taking care of the baby, as well as taking care of my mom when she hurt her back. I remember when the baby was sick and I had barely slept in days because I was in charge of it. Anyway, fast forward to today. Currently, my next eldest brother is downstairs. Presumably asleep, he has been living with my parents for over a year, and I just walked in the door. I'm not living there, just visiting for the holidays, and was immediately given the task of making the mashed potatoes. I asked why she didn't have my brother do it, and her response was, "What does this have to do with your brother?" And I expressed that it was bad that she never had him do anything, and only ever had me do stuff. And she laughed and said, "Well, that's 'cause girls are better." I was not amused and told her that it was not okay. She then got upset and went to her bedroom, where I overheard her complaining about me to my dad. I really don't mind helping out, but it infuriates me that literally no one else is ever asked to help. It's more of the principle of the thing that makes me not want to do the potatoes, like within 20 seconds of me entering our house. I was told of my duties, while my brother has been there the entire time and wasn't asked to do anything when I used to live here. She would wake me up at like 6 a.m. to help clean and cook for Thanksgiving, and would let my brother sleep in. Am I being in a hole right now for not wanting to help my mom cook for Thanksgiving? It instantly made me regret coming to the house early update after my dad tried to guilt me into helping and attempting to cause me by threatening to remember this later. I said I would probably do it, and my mom yelled at me saying she doesn't want anyone's help who doesn't want to help, considering just leaving and spending Thanksgiving with my boyfriend's family, as I don't feel like being given the cold shoulder and getting yelled at all day. Last update, I'm sure my brother doesn't do chores. He's never done chores in his life, because he's never been ox too. He pretty much stays in his room 95% of the time. He is in the house. He moved back into my parents' house about a year after finishing college because he quit his job and came home while he was looking for a new one. He got a new one a month or so ago and is planning on moving out in like 2 weeks. I felt bad about not wanting to help her because she was always cleaning up after everyone else that lives in the house. But I just resent being the only one expected to do anything. I've brought this up countless times over the years, and she just doesn't get it, or doesn't care. I don't know, I may just swallow my resentment once again and help out, because I love my mom. You're not the holope. It's annoying when you're expected to do all the chores because you're a woman, while your brother doesn't have to do anything just because he's a man. Unfortunately, a lot of parents are like this. They let the girls in the family do everything while the boys do nothing. This doesn't only affect the girls, But the boys are not better off either. Your brother is going to move out of his parents' house one day, and yet he doesn't do any chores. It's very obvious what his apartment is going to look like. The next thing he'll probably do is marry a woman to do all his chores for him. And the cycle continues. You're not the owl for speaking out on how unfair it is. I doubt your parents get it, though. So just do the chores so you can help your mom out. Let the cycle not continue with you and if you have children, teach both the boy and the girl to do chores. Now for some comments, not the whole. You should leave if that double standard. Making Thanksgiving dinner is a ton of work. I cooked all day to make dinner for my family. And my future husband helped. If the men in my family weren't helping and expected me to wait on them, I'd ask them to leave. Nope, you're not, and here's why they have had this sexist mindset since you were a child. You're now an adult and are free to express your disdain at their behavior. It's not about mashed potatoes. It's about rejecting their horrible, misogynistic behavior. Posts like this remind me how blessed I am that even though I come from a conservative, Hispanic family, I was never forced to do things because of my gender. I'm sorry for those of you that have. I have a looser brother who couldn't find his ass with both hands and a flashlight. I get it being depended on to do things. I don't know what has happened before you got there, and what will happen after you leave. You can make the best mashed potatoes in the world, or potatoes so bad they will never ask you to make them. Again, I don't know your family dynamics, but next time bring something. So when she asks you to make something, you say you already did. Story 3, I care about my half-sister. I care about her well-being, but not really her day-to-day happenings. I guess I care about her more, as though she's some random child and not a blood relative anyways. She's 3 years old and was born to my mom and her husband. I'm 19 and living with a close family friend, just down the street. I live here and not with my mom, because there is suddenly a lot of people living with my mom, her boyfriend, and his 2 kids, my sister and 2 other relatives, and having grown up an only child in a household with just my mom and dad, I couldn't stand all the chaos and noise. I mentioned this because I want to stress that I don't not care for her, because I dislike my mom's boyfriend. I don't like him, but I wouldn't take that out on a child. It's not a fault that her dad and I don't get along. However, the family friend I'm living with loves my sister. Whenever I get home from work, she always wants to give me a play-by-play of what my little sister had done, and I guess she expects me to dote over her as well, being as she's my sister. But I just don't really care. I'm glad you as well. And she seems to be a pretty smart kid at all. But I just don't really give a shit about that cute thing she said, or how much she loves this cartoon, for the record. I never said that I don't care about my sister. But I get the feeling that the family friend knows and is trying to push us to be closer. I guess the best word I could use to describe how I feel about her is indifferent. I feel about her as I would feel about someone I see on the street. I'm glad they're alive. And if they look unhappy, I would be sad for them. But I don't really want to know about their lives. I guess with the evidence presented, would I be in a hole? I certainly feel like a bit of a jerk for my indifference, but I don't outwardly show it, and I would never be rude to her or anybody that wants to talk about her. Am I the hole now for some comments? Well, you more or less grew up without her in your life, and are now expected to have feelings for a child that is only half related to you. I mean, you might grow a stronger bond when she's older, but I can understand your point of view. Don't think anybody in this situation is really in a hole. It's strange to me how much is annoying you, is all I'm saying. As long as you are not deliberately or accidentally being cold towards your sister and making her feel rejected. I would say you're all right. I think in her early life, you will need to spend some nurturing time with her. I would assume she still feels that you are a big part of her life, even if you do live across the street, due to the family connection. However, you are being fairly conscious about it, so just try your best and try to keep any family resentment separate from your sister, and you should be okay. Never in a hole for how you feel, only for how you act, that said. If you feel bad for feeling indifferent with her, try spending time alone with her, given the age difference and circumstances. Think of her as a niece rather than a sister. You may find that your indifference is simply that you haven't had an opportunity to really connect with her, or not keep in mind that people generally care more about family as they get older. It's one thing to truly be indifferent, but you don't want to end up 15 years later wishing you had more of a relationship with your sister. Either way, your feelings are always okay as long as you don't act on them in a hurtful way.